Hey friends, so we left off at exercise 20 on page 23. Exercise 20, page 23. This is another one of my favorite exercises where we're given a list of English sentences to translate into Latin. This is the hardest thing you'll do. This is the hardest thing you'll learn to do in Latin, translating from English to Latin. But once you can do that, you can do anything. And we have mentioned in the past for exercises like these that there is definitely a method. So we are going to remember back to our method, and we're going to do number 3 as our first example together. The Christians gave glory to God. So if you have not yet, write down the Christians gave glory to God, and make sure you leave yourself plenty of space. You're also going to want your chart written nearby so that you can refer to it. This is the first declension, the second declension, masculine and neuter. And I've kept the ablative out because we haven't gotten that far yet. So we're really just concerned with what we have already learned. Here it is. So I'm going to be able to look at that, and you should have it written out in front of you. I encourage you to write it out, but a trivium table is fine also. Have that in front of you. So, the Christians gave glory to God. You'll remember the very first thing that we do is we need to parse this sentence in English first. We need to identify the subject, the verbs, and any other parts of the sentence we can figure out, So, who or what is the sentence about? The sentence is about the Christians. So we have a subject here. Christians is our subject. And I'm going to go ahead and put plural here. This will help me later because remember I have to identify whether things are singular or plural. So the Christians, plural. Remember, Latin has no translation for articles such as a, an, or the. So we don't worry about the. We don't have to translate that. So Christians is our plural subjects. Plural subject. What did the Christians do? What's our action word? The word is gave. The Christians gave. That's our verb. The Christians gave. That's our verb. And then we are asking ourselves, our very next question we ask is, what did the Christians give? The Christians gave glory. They didn't give God, like handful of God. They didn't do that. They gave glory. So glory is our direct object. Glory is our direct object. And then we have another noun left over. We have a direct object. And we want to ask ourselves, is this other word that we have answering the question, to whom or for whom was the direct object given? We use our verb. To whom or for whom was the direct object given? It says the Christians gave glory to God. That is a special thing right there that we have called the indirect object. We've just learned about indirect objects. They answer the question, to whom or for whom is the direct object given, said, done, thrown. Insert your verb there. And so it looks here like we have exactly what we need. We do want to notice that glory and God are both singular nouns. So I'll put a little symbol here, little S for singular. Okay. Who remembers our next step? Our next step, you'll remember, is we don't worry about our endings. We just want to know what our vocab is. What is the vocab? Just how you learned it in your book. What is the vocabulary word, without worrying about the endings, for Christians? We learned Christianus, Christiani is Christian. So we're going to write Christianus. I go ahead and write both parts. Christianus, Christiani. And the reason I do that is because then I will remember what declension it's in. Okay? We'll remember what declension it's in if we can remember our vocab words in terms of the two words that they give you, Christianus, Christiani. So I went ahead and wrote it that way. There. Then what is gave? We just learned gave. We learned that it's plural. They gave is dederunt. So I'm writing dederunt. Now, why is it not dedet? He, she, or it gave? Because Christians is plural. So Christians is the third person plural. It's a they. So we want to use the they gave form of that verb. Dederunt. Okay? How do you say glory? Gloria, gloriae. Gloria, gloriae. And then God, remember, is Deus Dei. I had just enough room to write it in there correctly. Okay? You see, this part's very easy. You can understand very little about Latin grammar and always be able to get to this point if you know your vocabulary. If you know English grammar in the orange and you know your vocabulary in the purple, you can always get to this point in Latin. We haven't even talked about a single ending yet and what to do with it. So please don't give up on Latin. Please memorize your vocab and you'll always have something to contribute during class time. Now, the next thing that we do, we match up our vocabulary word with the ending that's going to tell us that it's doing this in the sentence. So we want to find Christianus, Christiani. It's a second declension, masculine noun, because we can look at our chart and see Christianus, Christiani. And we want to give it the proper ending for a plural subject. We remember back to our Latin noun case song, nominative subject. Okay, so we want our nominative plural ending for Christianus, Christiani, which happens to be Christiani. Okay? Everybody see how that's your nominative plural ending? Christiani. We already have dederunt. Dederunt. I'm just going to jot that down. And now we have glory. Gloria, gloriae, that we want to make into a singular direct object. So let's sing our Latin noun case song. Nominative subject, genitive possessive, dative indirect object, accusative direct object. So accusative direct object. Let's look at our accusative endings here. And Gloria, gloriae is in the first declension. Okay, that's why we wrote them both out like this. Gloria, gloriae in the accusative, and it's singular, so we stay in this column. So we want gloriam. Gloriam. Nope, doesn't have a macron. Gloriam. And then our last word, Deus Dei, we need to turn into a singular indirect object. So we look at our chart, we know that dative gives us our indirect object endings. So we want Deus Dei, second declension masculine. In the dative would be what? Find it on your chart and then check your work. Did you get Deo? Remember, we're not quite done. We need to put it in proper Latin order, which means we put the verb at the very end and everything kind of in the same order. So our final sentence says, write it down, and then check it when I hold my board up. Christiani gloriam Deo dederunt. The Christians gave glory to God. The Christians gave glory to God. Awesome. Pause here if you need more time. We'll move on. I would like to do number 5, because for number 5, we will have a genitive ending added in here. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's do number 5. Write it in English first. The Son of God gave heaven to the Christians. Okay. Make sure it's written on your paper. Here's mine. The Son of God gave heaven to the Christians. First thing we do is parse the sentence in English, you'll remember. Who or what is this sentence about? The Son of God. Okay, so what's our subject here? Is it Son? Is it God? Well, I will tell you. The subject here is Son. The Son gave. And if you're ever wondering how to figure out the subject, one of the clues is which one makes sense with the verb, okay? In the sentence in English, if I say the Son of God gave heaven to the Christians, my question to really figure out this subject is who gave heaven to the Christians? Was it Son gave heaven to the Christians, or God gave heaven to the Christians? In this sentence, it's saying the Son of God, the Son, gave heaven to the Christians. So Son here is our subject, and we remember it's singular. And then, so what do we do with of God? Well, you'll remember of God is a special Latin construction called a possessive word. It's possessive. Anytime you see of a noun like this, the Son of God, the sailors of Rome, the trees of the forest, that is always going to be possessive. You could also write it, God's Son gave heaven to the Christians. God's Son. So if you were translating it from Latin back into English, you could say God's Son, and it would still be possessive. So just get used to recognizing this Latin construction of God, possessive. All right? The next thing we deal with is gave. What's gave? Gave is the verb. Okay, it's the action word answering the question, what did the Son do? The Son gave. Now, let's find the direct object because he's giving something. What does the Son give? Does the Son give heaven, or does the Son give Christians? The Son gives heaven. That's what the sentence says. So heaven is our direct object, also singular. Okay, I'll write singular on there in a second. Son of God, possessive singular, and direct object singular. Okay, so the Son of God gave heaven. And then to whom or for whom did he give heaven? He gave it to the Christians. So we have an indirect object here. And our indirect object happens to be plural, Christians. Okay? What's our next step? Remember, our next step is the vocab. We're not worrying about the endings at all. So pause here and see if you can write out the vocab under this sentence on your own, and then come back and press play and check your work. So let's do it together. Remember, the is not translated. Son, filius filii. God, Deus Dei. Gave. Now this is a singular, he gave, not they gave. So in this sentence, we're going to use dedit. Okay? We're given that word. Dedit. Heaven. How do you say heaven? Kylum Kylie. Kylum Kylie. And then the next thing we want to find is Christians, which we just used a minute ago. Christianus, Christiani. Okay? There we go. Know your vocab and your English grammar, and you can get this far. Okay? Now, using the chart, let's line up what we know about each Latin word here with its correct endings. So, filius filii is son. We want son to be a singular subject. So we go over to the second declension masculine. I'm looking at it, filius filii. We need it to be in the nominative case. We need it to be singular. We see our ending is us. So we go ahead and write filius. Filius. Deus Dei needs to be possessive singular. Same declension, second declension. So now we have filius Dei. And I'm keeping it capitalized because it's referring to God. Filius Dei, the Son of God. Just bringing dedit straight down, dedit. Because at some point, it won't give you the verb. It'll give you like a general, like, to give. And you'll have to go find, okay, how do I say he, she, it gave? Okay? So for now, we're just writing the verb twice, and that's okay. It's building good habits for our next couple lessons we'll do. Kylum Kylie. Ooh, we have a second declension neuter noun. So we go over to our second declension neuter, and we see Kylum Kylie. And we need it to be in the direct object form. So what case is the direct object in? Nominative, subject, genitive, possessive, dative, indirect object, accusative, direct object, ablative object of the preposition. We need the ablative, the accusative. Accusative direct object. This is the direct object. It's singular. So, just for those of you who are still figuring this out, I'm in this column, and I want the accusative singular. Kylum. Kylum. And then we need Christianus, Christiani. Look at your second declension, singular. No, it's plural. Second declension, masculine, plural column. Second declension, masculine, plural column. It's going to be one of these 4 endings. Which one is our indirect object? Dative indirect object. Is. Christianis. So let's go ahead and write that down. Also capitalized. Christianis. All right. Last step is to rearrange it. Where are verbs at the end? So, Filius Dei. Caelum Christianis. Dedit. The Son of God gave heaven to the Christians. Got it? You can do it. Remember, write it out in English first. Follow the steps. English, write it in English. Parse it, figure out subject, verb, direct object, indirect object. Do the vocab, and then do the endings. At the very least, you can do the first 3 steps. And then if you have trouble, you'll have specific questions for your teacher. But the 4th step is to find those endings according to your chart. I think you can do it. I know you can do it. Good luck. See you next time.